before we kickstart the workshop, as I mentioned, let's go through the timeline of the competition to see where we are. For those who are new to the App Olympics competition, because we keep receiving registration every day. At the moment, we have 4,850 participants who are new to the competition. And some of you have already attended the workshop. So the App Olympics is a competition that falls under the Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy, and it is under the Create App initiative. It has been launched by His Highness Sheikh Fazza last year, and the goal of the competition is to position Dubai as a global hub for mobile app development and the mobile app industry, one of the global hub, main global hub. So you're here today because you are going to compete for 4 different prizes. Last year, we kickstarted the competition and we had 1,100 applicants. We offered 1,800 mentorship sessions, and we saw 160 prototypes developed during the competition. So if you're part of the 64 countries that were there last year, thank you for coming again for this edition. If you're new, then welcome to the 2024-2025 edition. In terms of where we are in the competition, you've registered to the platform and now you are enrolled. What we are requesting you, and this is very key, you are in the last 13 days of the competition where you are developing your prototype, your pitch deck, and your ABC form. The ABC form is an online form you need to fill, and the pitch deck needs to be recorded via any platform where we can see your face. It's very important because we want to ensure that the person that is pitching is the same person that will be at the semi-final. So for us, it is essential that we see your face while pitching. So the Canva offer this option, Loom offer this option, Zoom, the same way we're doing it right now, offer this option. So you can do it through that and share your pitch deck and your prototype. The prototype, we want to be impressed. So it's about doing your best to offer us a prototype that enable us to understand what your application is all about. Same for the pitch deck. Please make it concise and make it like create a story about your mobile app, create a story about your business, and create a story about your pitch deck in general. So these are the only 3 things you need to work on and submit by the 10th of December. You have access to mentors. Some of you already booked a couple of sessions and some of you haven't. But most importantly, we want you to pitch with the idea that you will make it to the final. And once you make it to the final, then you'll have 6 months to create your business and to develop your app, and we'll give you $150,000 to do so. So good luck for the next 13 days. Now I'll give the mic to Ben, who you're familiar with, and to Chris as well, who will help you develop your business model. If you have any question before I give you the mic, if you have any question regarding the competition, drop it on the chat, or please join us tomorrow for the Q&A session from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Dubai time. Thank you. Good luck.
Great. Thank you very much, Sarah. Cool. Okay. Well, welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be looking at developing your business model. So we're going to be looking at things like very important aspects for your app business, such as revenue, operational costs and activities. And then we're going to finish up by talking a bit about how you can pitch in the competition. So, yeah, that's what I've just said. Some quick housekeeping rules. I think we've already mentioned this. Mute your mic, raise your hand if you want to participate, use the chat where possible. If you want to share questions, it's great for everyone else to see, and please turn on your camera if possible. Just to give a quick recap of where we are, this is the kind of the 5th workshop in a series of 6 workshops, not including a very early kickoff we did in September. So yes, we're getting towards the end of the course. sadly, but it's exciting for you guys because the next couple of weeks we're going to be really looking at how you can develop your pitch ready for the competition. So first of all, we're going to start off with a quick icebreaker. And we're just going to ask the question, where do you need most support for the final weeks? And as usual, if you get your mobile phone, use the camera, snap that, or basically focus on the QR code, and then open the online poll, and you'll get a quick question to kind of fill in there. Okay, so I'm assuming people are getting quite good at this. So I'll just go to the answers. Okay, so looking across, yes, two big ones. So first of all, I mean, this is great. So developing my business model, which is what we're going to be looking at today, and also finalizing your prototype design. I can imagine that's going to be the kind of the front and center of a lot of your thoughts. I'm just going to see if I can. Oh, I just clicked on it again. Yep. Finalizing the prototype is very important. Okay, so just to that, we are running Q&A sessions on Thursdays, and we are running mentoring sessions as well. If you want to sign up, we'll put a link in the chat, and we'll touch on this later on in the session. So if you need any kind of further support for prototype design, just reach out to our team through those channels. I've already seen some of your prototypes and looking pretty good. So yeah. So I'm hoping it's just kind of just putting the final gloss on something. But for some of you who have just kind of part way through, there is support there if you need it. Okay. So another quick icebreaker again. Just point your phone at the screen and get the link. And here's a more of a fun question. Okay, just going to open this. So pick 3 words or emojis that best represent your app idea. Okay, got 2 so far. I mean, it's kind of a hard one to think about. Maybe just don't think too much about it. But I like that. Someone wants to be the next unicorn. Fantastic. I'm assuming the one with the car is you're potentially doing a kind of an automotive one. Let's see if there are any more responses. No, that's a bit of a tricky one, actually, like trying to choose that chat emoji. Okay, well, let's move on. And we will, before we move on, beg your pardon, we just want you to make sure we're going to be using Miro during this session for the interactive sessions. And we've already sent out a pack of images, templates that you can drop into the Miro board, and then you can use post-its and text and stuff on top. So if you haven't already done it, go to that link, open it up. You can then click to download the files, and then you can just drop them into a board. I'm assuming a lot of you have already got your boards open. This is a kind of the standard thing we're doing for every session. If you have any issues with it, then just let us know on the chat, and we can help you there. Okay, so just to kick off, I'm going to pass you over to Chris, who you probably know from other sessions, and he's going to talk you through revenue model.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Today, I'm going to be covering some of the different revenue models available for app businesses and businesses as well in general. So to begin with, I just want to refer back again to the app business canvas. So this has essentially been your canvas throughout this competition to cover the different various elements. So today we're actually going to be focusing on the commercial model as well as the operational plan. So very much how your business is going to be making money, how's it going to become profitable, some of the resources and activities and partners that we're going to delve into. As mentioned here, we cover commercial and operational to begin with. Go-to-market plan is extremely important. We have covered it in a previous session, so please do refer to the previous session recordings to be able to go through in detail. Now, the first thing about revenue model, and just to explain it in a nutshell, It's very much about how your business generates value in the form of revenue and money. There are multiple revenue models that are available for different types of businesses, whether you're app business or a non-app business. The optimal one actually depends on your target audience. So this goes very much back to understanding your customer, how much are they willing to pay, and how much value do they see in what your solution is providing. Some typical revenue models, which I'm sure many of you are aware of, include the subscription model. So this is SaaS, where you charge a recurring subscription per month or per year. There's commission per booking or per order. So think about the Uber model. There's direct sales. So if you have salespeople on the ground, they're actually selling your solution. Contract-based. This could be, for example, a training consultancy that sells trainings and provides materials within an application. And of course, is a popular one nowadays and growing in popularity is selling of actual data for big organizations to help them make decisions. One good example on the right-hand side here is Property Finder. Property Finder is a heavy app business as well as desktop, but their application receives most of the traffic of their business. Their business model is essentially generating revenue out of app. This means that Property Finder charges the real estate agencies that they work with outside of the application. There's no charges that happen within the app itself. The users, like me, like yourself, we use the app for free. So this can be considered a free model. If we go a little bit deeper into an actual application, an app business, there are several types of ways that we can generate revenue within the app. The first one, which I'm sure everyone here has actually come across, is generating revenue through in-app advertising. So on the left-hand side, you can see there's the game Tetris. Well, it's actually called Blocks. So basically, there's an ad that appears down at the bottom, which is showing up there for you as a user, advertising some sort of product or solution or other business. The aim of this is to generate as many impressions and clicks as possible, and that's when the business gets paid. In the second column, you're going to see a subscription model. So here, again, this is growing in popularity, mainly because it's very, very good for users to continue coming back to the application. And from a business perspective, it's great at forecasting revenue and cash flow. The third column are something called consumables and non-consumables. So as an example here is the Candy Crush game. Everyone knows Candy Crush. It's free to play. However, you can actually purchase additional things within the application. Consumables means that they're depletable, so you buy them once and they're used up. Non-consumables are purchased once and you don't have to purchase them again. This is more common in photo filter apps where you buy an age filter, for example, one time and you don't have to buy it again in the future. The fourth type is pay to download. So this is less common, as you can imagine, but it's basically an app which you have to pay within the App Store to download it and actually start using the app. Within this type of app, you can also introduce additional purchases within the application, referred to as a pay me in model. Now, I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into where revenue actually comes from an app perspective. So if you look at the bulk of this graph here, you can see that in-app purchases, meaning the subscriptions, consumables, so the purchases that happen once you're inside the application represent, 95, 99% of the revenue that's actually generated in apps. So this gives you some sort of indication of what users of applications are actually used to paying, how they're used to paying. One big question now comes, okay, if I introduce in-app purchase or a paid model, how am I supposed to actually price? So as mentioned before, the first thing you really need to understand is your target audience. So what are they willing to pay? What are the demographics that we're trying to target? Age groups, country-wise, how big are their actual pain points? How much value are we creating for them with our application, with our solution? We also want to look at competitors. If you are operating in a market like games, or whether it's subscription or pay for parking, you want to look at competitors to understand what are our competitors charging, direct or indirect, meaning that what is our target audience willing to pay for our competitors? What are our competitors' pricing models? Are they all subscription? So maybe you should also be subscription, or maybe you want to stand out. So understanding the competition is extremely important. The top right here is factoring in initial as well as ongoing costs. Now, it's all great that the target audience might want to be paying, 1 dirhams per month, but you need to have a sustainable business. You need to make sure to consider the costs of initial development, ongoing development, your marketing costs, your operational costs. You need to account for the future discounts and promotions. And there's a lot more costs that you need to track in order to make sure that you can last 12 to 18, 24 months. And the fourth, of course, is test, get feedback and adjust. Come up with a price once you've spoken to customers, go back to them, test it. Does it work? Is there a drop off in terms of purchases? Do people all of a sudden not want to respond to you because the price is too high? You need to gather that user feedback on an ongoing basis, pre-launch, post-launch, and of course, continue to adapt throughout. One really great example here is something we call the whale index. So the whale index is actually all about how whales are the company's top spenders. The index actually helps us understand how much top spenders within your business or your application are willing to spend in comparison to the bottom spenders. So on the right-hand side, you'll see WI80. Here you can see that the top 20% spend more than the bottom 80%. And if you look at the WI99, we're looking at the top 1%, how much they spend relative to the 99%. And I'll give you an example now with Zynga. So Zynga is one of the biggest game developer companies globally. 20% of their customers represented 88% of their sales. So to put that even further, to understand the gravity of this, the top 1% of users of Zynga applications spent $4,260 on average, versus the bottom 99% spent $87. So again, when you're trying to understand your users, really focus on those top value customers, because you're building for them, since they're going to be generating the majority of revenue for your business. So we'd like to do a quick poll here. If you could grab your phones, just scan the QR code. We want to get an idea of what type of revenue models do you plan to have within your application.
Give you a few more seconds to get your phone if okay, go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Perfect. So we're looking at, yes, in-app purchases. So this very much shows, similarity to the graph we showed earlier, that the majority of people do plan to do in-app purchases. One, probably because your business model works for it, but also because you know that this is something you as an end user that yourself are accustomed to. You have in-app advertising, which is also an important one, very much dependent on how much scale you can get in terms of users. And of course, pay to download would be the niche ones where you're charging that premium to be able to download the actual application. Next, we want to do a quick sort of guided exercise that I'll be going through about estimating revenue. So this is something that I myself have done with my previous startups. I do on a regular basis whenever I'm trying to come up with new business ideas and understand the feasibility of how much money this business can actually make. So here we've come up, and thanks to Visily.ai, which Ben and Celine had covered in the previous session, I've come up with this fitness health tracking application. So it's all about tracking your fitness, your steps, your dietary plan, and how you're moving and progressing along your journey. So what I've done here is, assuming I've actually spoken to some customers, I've realized that, hey, they're willing to spend 35 dirhams per month as a subscription price. Now, my plan is to launch within the UAE. So I'm like, okay, let me look at the population. There's approximately 11 million people. This is based on desk research for me to understand how many residents are actually living in the UAE that I want to target with my application, with my solution. Then I'm like, okay, how do I estimate revenue? So let's make an assumption that, or this can also be found through desk research, that 10% of the UAE are actually actively seeking digital fitness solutions. So that equates to about 1.1 million people. Now, my forecast and my assumption is that 5% of the target market are going to be able to download my app in year one. This is a bit of a stretch. However, it's an initial assumption that I'm making. From those 5%, 3% of those people will convert into a paid subscription, i.e. through an in-app purchase. I picked 3% because the benchmark is between 2 and 5% of people that are converting to paid. Based on these numbers, I'm going to approximately have 1,650 people that are going to become subscribers by the end of year one for my application. And based on the 35 dirhams that we paid before, we're going to look at a total revenue figure for year one of close to 700,000 dirhams. 693 to be specific. So this is my projected year one revenue. Now, what I can do is I can quickly start to play around with the variables, the assumptions that I've made, and say, you know what happens if I only capture 2% of my market in year one? And you can see how the revenue changes And you can do this over time, over the 5-year period, to really give you insight into how your business is going to be performing and give you some sort of estimate and baseline to work with. Now we'd like to go into a little bit about market sizing. So I did a quick market size. I told you desk research of 11 million people in the UAE, but we'd like to introduce you to more concepts here. So you might have heard of these, but usually market sizing is broken down into the top-down approach and bottom-up. So the top-down is where you start big. You look at the total market for your industry, whether it's fitness solutions worldwide, for example. And then you look at bottom-up. So this is starting small. How much could you realistically sell within your immediate market? And then you scale that up. An example we'd like to give here is coffee. A lot of us drink coffee. So we want to understand, what would the typical customer lifetime revenue look for an average consumer? So if we want to take into consideration the average purchase amount, the frequency of purchase, meaning how often do they buy coffees, and their time as an active customer. So assuming in the UAE it's 15, let's say 15 dirhams per coffee. I know it's more expensive nowadays. And then we've got 5 coffees per week on average that an individual consumer consumes. And on average, we're looking at a 5-year period as an active customer. We're looking at a customer lifetime revenue of close to 20,000 dirhams. So this number tells you, okay, well, this customer is worth 20,000 dirhams to me over this 5-year period. Now I need to think, okay, well, how much does it cost for me to acquire this customer? Am I willing to pay 500 dirhams or 1,000 dirhams to acquire this customer, to become my customer over this 5-year period? And the answer would most likely be yes, because the lifetime revenue is 20,000 dirhams. Here, we'd like to address 3 different areas of market sizing. So you look at the total TAM, which is the total addressable market. This is the very, very big number, everyone who needs your product globally. Then you look at the serviceable available market. So this is everyone who could realistically access your product. And then thirdly, and really go drilling down, is the obtainable market. So this is the estimated customers that you have a higher chance, a higher likelihood of actually converting, bearing in mind the competition as well as any other alternatives that are in the market itself. The example we want to go through here was with Airbnb. Airbnb, everyone knows, and their target market are guests who are looking to stay and take trips within, a hotel, not a hotel, but more like a host's guest house. So if you look at the total addressable market, we're looking at 1.9 billion number of trips that are booked worldwide. That's the TAM. Then we're looking at the SAM. There's 532 million budget and online trips that are booked. So Airbnb, again, their focus is more on budget and online trips. So they're drilling down to their target audience and who they can actually target. And then finally, we're looking at 10.6 million. So this is the potential market share of trips booked with Airbnb, assuming that they capture a percentage of the market based on how many they can actually obtain. So the ones that are realistic based on their competition, based on their growth.
Great, cool. So that's a very good introduction to market sizing. We have provided in the pack, we're not going to go through it now, but in the pack there is a template for you guys to start looking at your total addressable service obtainable markets and to then help you take your customer lifetime revenue and work out what your market sizing would be. Like I said, we're not going to do it now because it takes a bit of time to do, but there is a template in the pack for you to do that. Great. Okay, now we're going to look a little bit more at another area in your app business canvas, and this focuses in on operations and your operational plan. So some of the things within operations that we haven't covered already are really focusing in on what are the things are you going to do, what key activities are you going to do to perform for your app to succeed, and also supporting that is what key resources are going to be used that your app needs to succeed. Like one of those is going to be the app itself, but depending on your business, there could be other resources that you're leaning upon in order to be able to deliver the proposition to your customers. And finally, we're going to look a little bit at like who are the key partners that are going to be essential for your business model to succeed. So first of all, let's look in on key activities and resources. So essentially, these are the kind of critical actions and resources necessary for your app's launch and ongoing success. So we might have a number of different questions about how are you going to develop and maintain your app? What are you going to do to acquire these new users? And once you've got these new users, how are you going to keep engaging them so they don't leave your app? And also so you can kind of keep increasing the wallet share with the customers you've got. You want to keep them spending and maybe spending more. And finally, and this is very importantly to what Chris was talking about, how and also when are you going to monetize the app? Now, all of these questions have activities and resources in the answers to them. So we're going to first of all look at the key activities. Oh, someone mute there. So in terms of the key activities, we were talking about how we're going to launch the app. So the activity you could be doing is you could be saying, I'm going to build my app in phases. So it's going to be phase release. I'm going to launch with the core features. And I'm also going to be doing regularly testing and updates in order to maintain the app and ensure that it provides a world-class experience. In terms of your reaching out to customers, you could be doing a search engine optimization. So that could be a key activity that's involved in accessing your target market. You could be buying Instagram advertising. You could actually, let's say you've got a fitness app, you could be running a competition amongst your users to really kind of inspire, engage them and get them to reach out to their friends to join the competition. There could be lots of different activities here. This is just like some examples. Other examples could be running regular newsletters to kind of keep engaging your customer group, maybe even running offline events. And doing things like social media promotions. Again, that could be for attracting new customers, but it could also be to engage the existing customers. And finally, looking at the kind of the monetization, maybe you're deciding you want to first of all be focusing on a free app, so providing a free app to build traction, and then maybe you're introducing paid options in app after 90 days, and maybe advertising is also going to be one of the key revenue streams for your mobile app. So advertising would also be another key activity. So you've started to look at what activities are needed to support your business and your app. So now let's turn our attention to the resources. So you can see resources are actual things. They're either physical, digital, they could be an entity like a kind of intellectual property or a license. That could be an example of a resource. And obviously money is also a key resource as well that you're going to need to launch your app. So let's look at, and also critically as well, forgot to say, people. People is obviously a key resource. You're going to have your founding team, but presumably you're going to be other people you're beginning working with. Either you're bringing them in-house or you're kind of outsourcing these resources, but they're also kind of personnel is going to be a key resource that you're going to be needing. So for example, in your technology, you could have a CTO. That could be a part of your founding team. They are a key resource. You have your development team. Maybe you can track them out. You'll have things like API licenses. You'll also have hosting you'll need to host the app and the servers. And also you'll have, maybe you'll have some physical space as you're growing, maybe in your plan. Within the first year or so, you're going to need to have a place where all of you can work together. You can bring in your marketing people, your sales people, etc. So that would be another key resource you need to kind of plan for. You'll also be things like marketing software or AI content tools in terms of your marketing. You might be buying advertising. That's another resource. And then also, as you move on to how you're going to keep engaging with people, maybe you need a community manager or an SEO team. And finally, for things like managing, that's especially if you're doing either B2B or ad sales, you're going to need a salesperson or a sales team. You may also need things like payment platforms and accountancy. So these are all examples of activities and resources. And what we're going to do now is you've got a couple of templates in your Miro board, and there's one for activities. So we're just going to do a quick exercise where you're going to just start putting some post-its in that activities template. And for these, just think about the most important activities for your app. consider both pre-launch and post-launch activities. And maybe just think about this in terms of the first 12 months. You don't need to be thinking about where you're going to be in 5 years' time. And as in order to inspire you, we've got some different sections here. So first of all, think about how you're going to develop and maintain your app, how you're going to do customer acquisition, how you're going to do customer retention, and how you're going to keep engaging people, how you're going to activate them. You might acquire these customers, but how are you going to push them into paid customers? And then also, what activities are going to be involved with monetizing the app? Either doing direct sales or advertising, basic. I mean, a lot of you are going to do in-app purchases as well. So, what activity is going to be involved with setting those up and monetizing? And also, these are only a few activities. If you can think of any other activities, put those in as well. We've got a section there for other key activities. If you have any questions, you can always put them in the chat. And again, this is just to get you started. I think when you go away and you leave today, there will be a lot of other activities you need to think about. Now, when it comes to writing your business app canvas, obviously you just need to summarize these activities, but it is worth going into a lot of detail yourselves just to really understand what you're going to need to do over the next 12 months in all these key areas. Okay, we've got about a minute left. Like I say, these are just kind of early days, and obviously just start putting the post-its in. Some of you may have already started looking at this in your app business canvas. I know that some of you, I've seen some of your canvases and you've already started. So in about 40 seconds, I'm going to invite people, if anyone wants to, either on the chat, or if you want to share your board, you can put your hand up and we can get you to share. I think in these sessions, sharing on the chat, just start sharing some of the key activities you're going to be doing, so everyone can share in those and comment on them. Right, we've got about 20 odd seconds left. Okay. Right, so you know the drill by now. I'm going to ask for any volunteers to either put your hand up in the chat or just put it onto the chat itself, and we can read some of them out. Let me get the chat up. Okay. So we've got any volunteers to share on the chat, for example, some of the key activities you're going to need to do. Okay, advertising based on age and needs on Google and social media. Great. That's a good one. So you're kind of starting to think about like the the filtering you're going to need to do when you're doing your Google ads. Online events. Yep, that's a really good one. Also, if you've got a kind of a community of people, it's really great to engage. Not only the online event is to help acquisition, but also you get feedback as well, and really important input into the progress of your app. Invite user to have a coffee in a chat. Great. That takes us back a little bit to some of the testing stuff we were doing last week, and that's a great way, just in a very informal setting, to both to kind of test your business idea, but also this could be about making sure you're on the right lines, getting some feedback there once you've launched it, or even like this could be kind of some early sales. And we do have a Miraboard link. One sec. Oh no, that's an AI note taker. Let me see. Rajesh, I think it's going to be tricky for me to share that right now. But what we can do is we can maybe, if you want to kind of do this in the kind of the Q&A session, or we've got a kind of an online forum tomorrow where we can share the board. Great. Okay, so now we've started looking at key activities. Now what we're going to do is to turn our attention to the key resources. And to help you out, in the template on your Miro board, you'll see that we've divided it up into multiple sections, including physical, digital, kind of people, intellectual property, and one other, I can't remember, financial. Yeah, money, obviously, can't forget money. So now for the next 3 minutes, if you guys will just start to put what these resources could be. And obviously, if you're looking at your activities, that might inspire you, like what resources you'll need to achieve those activities. But maybe there's something you haven't thought about, let's say like office space, for example. And this, at this point, these are just kind of your best guesses of like where you think you're going to be within the next 12 months. Things like office space, not everyone needs. A lot of businesses get launched with virtual teams, especially nowadays. I think in the last few years, everyone's gone to hybrid and remote models. So I think for startup teams, it's less of an issue to have an office. Although you might say, actually, we're going to have like a kind of, maybe you've got a very strong sales team you're going to need. Maybe actually office space is something you need. Also, other physical things. This is probably less relevant to you guys, but if you need any kind of machinery or other kinds of hardware, put that down, or any vehicles as well. I know that some of you have been looking at kind of delivery models but you're talking about actually having your own fleet of vehicles. Is that something you also need to think about? So Veronica says all except for physical. Is any of the QA? Veronica, actually, maybe what did you mean by all except for physical? It'd be interesting to know. Things like intellectual as well. So you might be looking to create a patent or a trademark. Actually, a lot of you will probably, if you go and launch your app, trademarking is something you'll probably want to do. Doesn't cost a lot of money, but it could save a lot of kind of unnecessary kind of intrusive competition further down the line when people take some of your designs or your logo or your name. Human, as I mentioned before, think about your founding team, but who else are you going to need to bring in? What skills do you not have in your founding team that you're going to need to add to be able to deliver your app? I think for a number of people, development, although I know there's a few of you that are doing your own development. And also, and these could be contractors you bring in, they could be outsourced. I think for a lot of you kind of early on in the process, you probably won't be bringing in new people, but maybe some of you will. And then financial. So think a little bit about the kind of the funding resources you're going to need. Now, we don't need to go into a lot of detail exactly how much you need at this point, but maybe just the types of financial support you think you'll need. Okay, again, do we have any volunteers? I'm seeing stuff. So I've got some questions. So firstly, considering market research and evaluation, how can we measure it? Is it just based on the idea of the app and sector? Let's have a quick look. Oh, Chris, you've started to answer that there. Yeah, is that a question about market size? How can we position ourselves within that?
Yeah, that one is more about market size. How do we calculate our total market size? And it's recommended initially you can do desk research. Understand where your target audience is. If it's a fitness industry, how big is the fitness industry? And there's a lot of information online you can use to start estimating.
Great. And now we're also looking at some of the more resources. So yeah, no code platform. That's brilliant. I think a lot of you are going to be using that. Marketing team, developers, and obviously you need funding. Finance, and you need to bring in people with experience in the market you're targeting. Great. Cloud resources. Yes, I think when it comes to hosting, everyone's going to be doing cloud. Can that be considered as digital resources? Yes. Yes, it can. And Veronica, yep, you'd like to have a strong developer specialized on gaming as an example. Perfect. Production of high quality courses requires to have a production studio with quality cameras and okay, here's a good example of physical. And you're going to have filmmakers, course curators, sound lighting engineers, etc. It doesn't have to be exploded. Well, okay. It sounds like you've got like a good ambition there. I'd be interested to see how you're looking to keep the costs down. But like, obviously, if you're looking to do high quality, you'll need those resources. Okay, just a quick question. When will last week's recording be uploaded onto the Appolympics website? I'll put that out to the team. Maybe Carmen or someone or Sarah could just answer when the recording is going to be uploaded onto the Appolympics website. We'll put it in the chat. Okay, great. So now we've looked at activities and resources. One last thing that people often kind of miss out when they're putting together their operational plan, and that's about partners. So key partners are essentially external organizations, services, maybe sometimes even just individual people that support the app's build and operations. And when we talk about operations, we are including things like reaching out and acquiring customers, marketing, etc., etc. Partners are super important to launch any new business, not least for app businesses. And there are lots of different ways in which bringing people in can assist your business. So first of all, and this is like a big one, I think, especially as you're looking to acquire new customers, we've got the concept of channel partners. And what we mean by that is these are people that have access, that already have access to customers, which you would like to have as your customers, and you are using them as a channel to get to the customers. So you might have a number of different arrangements here. Maybe you are actually paying them referral fees, for example, kind of like in a kind of affiliate kind of way. Or maybe you have almost like a strategic alliance, and this will come to the next bit, where you are, it's actually providing value to them for you providing your value. So you have non-competing services, and actually their customers would really benefit by having your services. So, and potentially that can grow where you start kind of delivering them customers as well. Licensing partnerships. Yes, that's where you bring in another company and license their software. So a simple example of that is where you license SaaS, for example. Supplier-buyer partnerships as well. That's where you're working within the same kind of vertical. And I'm trying to think, obviously manufacturing is a good example, whereby they are producing a product that gets used further upstream, and maybe you are providing a service further upstream, and you actually have built out a relationship there in terms of they are providing resources to you, potentially in exchange for money, to help your business. And then we've got a whole bunch of other partnerships like government partnerships. I guess that could be particularly important in this region. And other strategic partnerships like incubators, accelerators. You might bring in people like influencers, social media influencers. There's a good partnership there where they are promoting your app. Potentially they get some kind of affiliate fees for that. And things like brand ambassadors, where you bring on people to be able to go out and promote your product. And really it helps you in a number of different areas. So accessing customers, optimizing your costs, access to kind of key resources you wouldn't necessarily have. And overall, bringing in partners reduces your risk because you're sharing some of the risk of the success of your business with those partners. Okay, so I'm going to drop you into a bit of the deep end here, especially if you haven't really been thinking about partnerships. Who could be the most important partner for your app? And we would like you to scan the QR code and there's a little box there. Just type in who would be the most important partner for your app. I'll give you a few more seconds to get the QR code and then I'll look at the results. And this could be how you're going to acquire customers, or it could be maybe it's access to resources. Maybe there's other software you're going to need to license, so they'll be like a key partner. Great. Okay, so we've got some good ones coming down. So educational institutions. I'm assuming this is for something in EdTech space. Customers. I would say customers are not really your partners in this sense. The customers, your customers, you're not really necessarily going in partnership, unless you've got a very specific use case. If you've got a specific use case, you can post it on the chat and prove me wrong. Influencers, great. Content creators, yes, that's a very good one. Again, client, I think you'd have to be a bit more specific on this one. Typically, your clients aren't necessarily your partners, you're kind of selling to them. And a good guy, I'm not sure, that's an interesting one. Okay, we've got a few more here. Travel agents, payment partners, yes. NGOs, deduct institution, I'm not sure what that means. Institution, is that right? Incubators, airports and airlines, interesting. Tourism boards. You've got statistical partners, government, healthcare institutions, startup networks, Apple, interesting. You know, partner with Apple would be quite cool. So yes, we've got, I mean, Apple, I guess, is a kind of partner. If you're going to be going to the App Store, then Apple will become your partner, essentially. So yes, that's a kind of, yeah, I think for most of you will have like a partnership with kind of Google or Apple in order to be able to get customers to access your product. Great, that's good. Some really good ideas here. So people have been thinking about partnerships, which is great. Okay, so let's move on. We've kind of already done that. So we've got now a quick break. So we've got a quick couple of minutes break to go away, just freshen up, and we'll be back then to talk about financials.
Ben, you're on mute.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that. Great. So now we're going to talk about financials. And regarding the App Business Canvas, that's going to be in the quadrant or the section that's entitled commercial model. So obviously you've got your kind of revenue, you've also got your costs. This all gets covered within financials. And we're going to talk a little bit about financial projection. So what is a financial projection? Essentially, this is where you forecast your future revenue, your expenses, and then work out your profits based on assumptions about your business activities and market conditions. Essentially, this is going to help support your decision making. And also it's going to be very, very useful, especially if you want to go and get investment, to show where you predict your business to be in, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4 years' time. So why do you need financial projections? As I mentioned, planning. You want to manage your risk because you don't want to have any unforeseen costs arise, because that could basically sink your business. To help understand how you're going to grow and how you're going to grow at a rate that's going to be financially sustainable. And also, as I mentioned, like fundraising with investors. So the first thing you need to do is, in order to understand both revenue and potentially costs, is estimating the number of customers. So we've already talked about kind of customer acquisition, which is how many new customers have I added in a particular period. And then you've got to work out, this is a very important thing that a lot of people don't think about, which is your churn rate. So how many customers are you going to lose within a particular period? And if people say, I'm not going to lose any customers, you're not really being honest with yourself. I think even very successful businesses such as Netflix get a churn rate, albeit with Netflix it's 2%, which is like super low. In terms of apps, that tends to be quite a bit higher. People will download an app, have a quick go on it, and then it's not quite for me. So you might have like a huge burst of customers acquired in a particular month, but don't be surprised if some of those leave the next month. So you need to just estimate, and you can obviously just start estimating with, let's say, I don't know, 10%, and then you can update that number as you launch, and you can then kind of refine that down. But essentially, this is your number of customers. Then you want to estimate your revenue, and that's your sales. So in terms of the elements to this, you've got your revenue drivers. Where is your revenue coming from? We talked about that in a couple of sections ago. How much is each customer going to spend on average in a given period? Typically, we'll look at monthly revenue or kind of monthly spend, or maybe yearly spend. Monthly is probably a better metric to use, especially as you're kind of starting out. And this then gives you, if you total that together, so the number of customers times this average spend, then you're going to get your revenue. And you'll hear these words, or these kind of abbreviations, MMR and ARR. These are super, super important, the holy grail of revenue. That spells out monthly recurring revenue and annual recurring revenue. So each month, how much recurring revenue, how much kind of like repeatable revenue you're going to get. And ideally, you want to keep that at least constant and then growing month on month. And then we'd also need to look at costs. So this, again, it's another one that sometimes people don't pay enough attention to, but how much is it going to cost you to run this business? So you've got a number of different types of costs and expenses. You've got the cost of goods sold. So that's basically for each time you are selling something new to a customer, how much is that costing you? So a classic one is fees. Let's say you've got like a transaction, a payment fee. Every time the customer buys something from you, you have to pay a little bit to the payment provider. So that could be, I don't know, 1%, 2%, 3% cost. But you need to make sure you've got that cost logged somewhere. Otherwise, at the end of the month or the end of the year, the money in your bank account is going to look quite different. Obviously, you've got something called customer acquisition cost, CAC. And this is like where you estimate how much does it cost me on average to add a new customer. So you need to think about things like advertising costs. If you use things like Google Analytics and Facebook Analytics, for example, they pull those metrics out for you. So they will say how much it costs per conversion. And obviously, you need to look at that further down the funnel of like whether those people have become customers, and then you can work out how much it's costing you in ad spend for every new customer. And essentially what you want to be doing over time is kind of reducing that cost. You've also got some kind of operational expenses, and these are independent of the number of customers, well, to a large degree. So they're going to be like things like your accountant or your payroll, whoever's doing your payroll, the contractors doing your marketing or development. These are costs that, like I say, independent of like how many customers you have, largely. Obviously, you might need to have more people brought on board if you've got like as your marketing scales up, but generally you'll just need to be paying these people on an ongoing basis. And then you've got other expenses like one-off costs, and so it's like a one-time investment. For example, creating your app in the first place, that initial development cost, or maybe you want to do a rebrand, so you bring in some designers to do a rebrand. That's like a kind of a one-off cost that falls under kind of other expenses. And putting all this together, you will get what we call your profit loss. So your profit is essentially your revenue minus costs at a kind of a simple level. And from here as well, you can calculate how much is your burn rate. So this is the rate at which your company is using cash. This is super important to start thinking about how much and start tracking how much you're burning through and seeing how quickly you are. Because that then gives you the second bit, which is your runway. And you might hear this a lot about startups talking about their runway. Essentially, this is how long you have before you exhaust all your money. So maybe you've got some funding, maybe you're bootstrapping, but in either way, you're only going to have a finite amount of money. And so you can then calculate how long can I go before essentially I run out of money. And managing your runway is like probably one of the number one concerns of startup founders. This is what you've got to be thinking about all the time. And after funding, typically you will have around about 12 to 18 months of runway before you have to go for your next funding round. You put all this together, so you've got your revenue, you've got your cost of goods sold, you've got your operational expenses, and essentially you put together something like this. And this is basically a kind of a financial projection. And you might have seen a number of different versions of these. This is just one way of doing it, but typically you'll have all your costs and money coming in and coming out down one side, and then you'll have your columns will be your first year, second year, third year, fourth year, and you can see over time how you build the customers, and then you essentially building your revenues. At a certain point, you can see the red numbers at the bottom and the green numbers. At the end of maybe year 2 or year 3. That might be the point at which you start to make a profit. Typically, with new businesses, you'll be spending more than you bring in the early times. This is why you need kind of seed funding and then Series A funding to be able to help you. But then as you get through the years, you really want to be starting to turn a profit, especially by kind of year 4, year 5. You want to be in the black or in the green as we're showing here. Okay, one other thing to mention while we're talking about finances, and this is something that doesn't really sound intuitive, but it's true. Costs will continue to increase the more you grow. And by this I mean, as you start to scale up, you're going to have to bring in more resources to be able to deal with the number of customers you'll bring in. And sometimes that will mean in the short term, at least your costs are starting to not necessarily exceed, but that ratio between costs and revenue, and ultimately the profit you make, the profit might decrease a bit in the short term before you start making that profit back up again. For example, if you were to start scaling up your app, and then you need to bring in I don't know, 2, 3, 4 new team members. In the short term, that's a kind of an additional cost. You might not make that up in revenues immediately, but it's an investment. So over time, ultimately your projection should be showing that you're going to then turn that back into the same level or more profit than before. And one last thing to finish on, while we're talking about financial projections, looking at a recent survey of the most reasons that startups fail. Firstly, which is a bit surprising actually, especially if people are going to be doing like nice testing and stuff early days. No market need. Now this is hopefully you guys have been doing your kind of early testing. You've been looking at your problems, making sure there is a problem to solve, and that your solution will solve that problem. But 42% crashed because of no market need. But crucially, the second one, which is about 30%, is people ran out of cash. So this is really, really important to be able to start projecting and predicting how much you're going to need, how much you're going to bring in, so you don't become one of that 30% further down the line that basically their runway kind of ended and they didn't have any more money coming in. Cool. So we've gone through a number of different concepts here. You'll probably have a lot of questions still, like, should I pay myself and my co-founders a salary? Which there's no right or wrong answer from that. When is the right moment to spend money on X, Y, and Z? How much should I be allocating for marketing and customer acquisition, for example? Again, this really depends on your situation. So we have this mentoring service, the Mentor Circle. So if you have any of these questions, book in a session with us, and we can help you to talk through and like work out how you answer those questions. Also, there are the Q&A sessions tomorrow on Thursdays that you can then join, and you can ask your questions there. Great. Okay. So now I'm going to pass you back to Chris, and we're going to talk a bit about business planning and business plan.
Again, everyone, thanks a lot, Ben. And as Ben mentioned, there are a lot of questions at this stage and also in the future that you have. So please do use the Mentor Circle. There's a lot of mentors there with different expertise that can help you. So now what we want to go into is about the business plan. So one big question a lot of entrepreneurs and myself have always asked in the past is, do I really need a business plan? Is that needed? This is, maybe this is from 10, 15 years ago. Do business plans still apply? So the answer from my side is yes. I believe we still do need the business plan. So I believe the business plans are there to guide you. Now, as an entrepreneur in any new business, it's very difficult to keep focus when there's so many different things happening. So typically, if you look at the top left, this is what your business plan looks like. Your plan is straight cutter, going straight towards the finish line, towards the North Star. And the reality of the situation is below. You'll start going up the hill, then crash, then go up, go over a bridge, dive into a ditch. There'll be a storm. So many things happen during the startup journey, from ups and downs, distractions, your pivots, and there's a never-ending task list as a founder wearing multiple hats. So the business plan is there to guide you in that right direction so that you can always sort of return back to what you were trying to achieve in the first place. Here again is the startup curve. So this is a very popular diagram. On the left-hand side, you can see we begin at before the startup. So, enthusiasm levels are there. You have a spike of enthusiasm, then the reality sets in, and then all of a sudden you're trying to figure out an experiment and you're pivoting your business, your solution is changing. It starts to work. You finally achieve product market fit, and then you start to scale. So again, the startup curve is not just straight, going upwards towards the skies, but the reality is it goes up and down as long as the trajectory is towards your North Star. And I'd like to mention here, the App Business Canvas that you guys have been working on all these weeks is basically like the start of a business plan. So it already is laying out all the different areas to help organize your thoughts into a plan. So whether that's the problem or your market size or who you're trying to target or your competitors, all these are fundamentals that go into the business plan. And here, what you do is from your App Business Canvas, you can continue in more detail. So going into problem, you can start to outline a lot more of your user interviews. You can start to outline how your problem delves deeper and is connected to multiple different things. You can start to put your app development plan and your actual timeline over 3 or 6 months. What is your user acquisition and growth strategy? Your financial plan, your full financial plan over 1, 2, 3, or 5 years can actually be there in detail. You can do a full risk analysis. So if there's any technical risk, market risk, you can work on your SWOT analysis. And of course, you can go into detail about your operations. How are we going to run the company on an ongoing basis? Really go into detail about your partners, your activities, your resources, customer support. And that becomes the basis of what you can refer to. Now, it doesn't mean that it needs to be followed to the book, but it's there to guide you and to put your ideas in one place. The main thing from my side I can say about a business plan, it's about, and a business in general, is it's about focus. So focus is very difficult, especially in the beginning. What we want to do is figure out the North Star so that every decision that you make is towards your app's success. Now, and I'll give you an example here. So the fitness app Health Tracker I mentioned earlier, let's say that's my application. And my North Star is to become the leading fitness app in MENA by usage, meaning that how much consumers use my application. So the metric could be 1 million users using it every single day. What I do then is I start to think, okay, well, how am I going to reach that North Star? Well, I need to first acquire 1 million users. I need to hire the best team of developers. I need to partner potentially with the leading fitness influencer. And from each one of those, I try to think, okay, well, how am I going to acquire 1 million users? I need to run social media campaigns. I need to go out to events. I need to partner with someone else. And each of those tasks and every task that you do as a founder should ultimately try to link back to what your North Star metric is. Is it going to help you move forward, or is it just another distraction? So here are some examples of North Stars, and I'll just give you sort of a definition of North Star metric. It's a single focused measure that aligns the entire company with its overarching mission, while also representing the value that's being delivered to customers. So the whole purpose of it is to quantify the mission in a way that's both measurable as well as trackable. Some examples on the right here, you have Careem, which everyone knows from the region. Theirs is the number of completed rides. At least this was before when they were focusing on ride hailing. Amazon is the number of orders placed when it comes to their e-commerce business. Spotify is the time spent listening, and Ben will cover something on Spotify now. LinkedIn is the monthly active users. So how much are our users actually using LinkedIn and visiting and revisiting the platform? Airbnb, the number of experiences and nights booked. Oh, Ben, you're on mute, sorry.
So it's worth thinking about. So obviously these North Star metrics really kind of help you focus a lot of the, especially kind of operational activities you're doing, but also it can actually influence the way in which you build your app. So I think Spotify, as Chris mentioned, is a good example. They made early on time spent listening their number one North Star goal. They say if people are listening to music, then we're going to keep people engaged, people are going to be retained, they're going to share their playlist with other people, it's going to have a viral thing, we're going to bring more people onto the platform. People are going to hear people listening to Spotify, oh, what's that? Okay, yeah, and then they're going to join Spotify. So they prioritized time spent listening, and they actually built the app around that. So you'll notice that on Spotify, when you're listening to a track, the music never stops. And they kind of built this into one of their user experience principles as well. So never stop the music is one of their key things because they're focusing on time spent listening. And this means that previously, I remember using kind of online or kind of like players in the past. You'd listen to music, and then when you navigate away to find another track, you'd have to stop that track and then go in and try another track, right? So it was a bit like the analog was like changing CDs or something. You have to take one off before you put another one on. They basically made their player, so their player keeps playing. So even when you're navigating around, whatever you're doing, it's the music never stops. So it's a good example of how the North Star can really direct how you build your app. And now I think a lot of other players have now followed suit from Spotify and done the same thing. But this is where this can really be very influential.
Exactly. And it's again, it shapes the entire company, and it's very, very important to try to take the time to really come up with the right North Star metric that shows that value. Yeah. So here, I know it's short notice, but we wanted to run a little bit of an exercise. So take a minute to think about what your North Star could be, whether it's, time spent listening or monthly active users. You don't have to put the exact metric at this point now, like 1 million or 2 million or whatever, but just try to think along those lines of your ultimate objective. And if you could scan the QR code here and just add it so that we can get an idea of everyone's North Stars.
Cool. Give you a few more seconds to get that QR code on your phone. And then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. We've got some stuff coming up. I'll keep refreshing. So some good ones there. Number of nights, number of trip booked. Yeah. So I'm assuming this is kind of like some kind of hotel residential app. So just the number of
Monthly
users.
active.
Yeah. Sorry. So you could go, Chris.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, monthly active users are good. Oh, there we go. Okay, amounts of bookings, daily usage, based on donation. Interesting. I like that. Number of avatars sold, great. Recurring customers. So it's great that you're all thinking in the right way. You're looking at trying to put a metric on it, to try to actually measure it. And it's about taking that and really, I mean, almost printing it out. Once you fine tuned and you know exactly your North Star, something that really resonates with you, print it out and make sure that anyone that you're pitching or anyone that's joining your team, that this resonates with them, that they have the same belief and the same vision as you, because that's what's going to get you the best team members, best culture, going to convince your jury that you're pitching, that you're really passionate about what you're trying to achieve.
Cool. I think we've already shared that, so we don't need to do the volunteers. Cool.
Perfect. So I'll just do a quick intro. We have a expert guest speaker with us today. His name is Jeremy Shorter, and he's the Assistant Vice President at Aldar Properties, which is the leading property developer in Abu Dhabi and I believe in UAE now as well. He has a background as an entrepreneur. He has a background as a trainer. He has a background also in startups and incubators and accelerators. And he's here today to give a little bit of a talk about his background and specialties. Jeremy, could you skip? Ben, could you skip one slide?
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Good.
Awesome. First of all, I profusely apologize. I've lost my meeting room, my booth space. So to save you guys a view of the underside of my chin, I'm just going to be off camera, but I'm here and you can see my picture here. This is exactly what I look like. But thanks for the warm intro. Really appreciate it. And hello to everybody on the call. Hats off to you for making this leap into entrepreneurship and developing apps and solutions that are going to be hopefully transformational for the markets that you're approaching. So I think I've been brought in for just a few minutes, 5-10 minutes, just to speak to you guys as a cohort around a few different things. First of all, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of my background, where I've been for the last maybe sort of 12, 13 years. And then I'm going to go into a few things I think that might be helpful for you when you're building your propositions that you'll be eventually pitching to the jury. So we're going to talk a little bit about a few metrics that I've picked out that I think really matter when it comes to initially my conversation was Chris around pitching to investors, and as you'll see in a minute, I've got a bit of background in the VC space, so I can definitely talk to that, but we kind of shifted it to pitching to a jury, which I think will be really helpful for you guys. And then also I've got a few just tips for early stage founders that I'd love to share, so we'll walk through a few of those, and then I can open up for some light Q&A. So I think I've got 12 minutes. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, approximately.
Okay, cool, awesome. I think I'm also booked for a mentorship session, so I'm going to try and be on time for that as well. But just very quickly then, as you've got my bio up here on the screen, Jeremy Shorter, currently Assistant Vice President of Innovation here at Aldar Properties. My background spans quite the breadth of the innovation ecosystem across Europe and the MENA region. So started my career in big tech, working for Dell, as a solutions architect. I was helping with technical sales, but really sort of sparked my interest in technology. I was actually working on a big process around moving corporates in the journey to the cloud, so I've kind of aged myself there. But essentially that was the beginnings of my introduction to technology. Then moved on to a role supporting the startup ecosystem with King's College London, where I was charged with heading up the entrepreneurial learning fragment of the King's Entrepreneurship Institute. So I was part of the founding team of the KEI alongside the King's Business School. And I led a bunch of founders within the King's community on their journey into entrepreneurship and beyond. So built the first learning program specifically around entrepreneurship, and also the first higher education university-based acceleration program in the UK, which was fantastic. Then made my trip out to the UAE and joined New York University Abu Dhabi, where I was the head of corporate programs, supporting the development of accelerator programs that were sold into large corporates, such as the likes of Aldar. So not too sure if you've heard of the Scale Up program launched by Aldar, but I designed that and delivered that whilst at New York University Abu Dhabi on the supply side, and a few other programs as well within that remit. Then moved on for the next couple of years to Flat Six Labs in Abu Dhabi. I was the program director at Flat Six Labs, charged with delivering the first ADQ-backed fund. It was a seed program with a 3-month accelerator attached to it. Very, very high octane. We did about 20 investments per year, 150K to 250K tickets with the facility to follow on with about $500,000. So in that sort of breadth, and then now I've been brought along to Aldar in the last 2.5 years to support building that connective tissue between us as a leading corporate in the region and the startup ecosystem. So in that last sort of 12, 13 years, I've probably met with close to, I don't know, thousands of founders, hundreds and hundreds of teams. I've come across solutions right the way from the breadth of edtech to fintech to now focusing quite a lot more on prop and construction tech. And yeah, I've seen a lot of stories and heard a lot of interesting things, and hope that I can support you guys with some things that I think will really help. So Chris sort of reached out to me and said, look, I think it'll be great if you can talk to the cohort on a few things that will be helpful for them when they're actually pitching their idea and stitching their storyline together. So I said, I think it's really important at the earliest stages to think about what metrics really matter and what metrics should be measured at the earliest stages. And that can, a lot of them will follow you through your entire journey, and you'll be thinking about these metrics on an ongoing basis. Some of them will change and shift focus slightly as your ideas pivot and develop and grow and evolve into different products and services, which is very common in the entrepreneurial journey. There's large schools of thought and trains of thoughts around pivoting and how to pivot effectively. But these metrics are some of the ones that I like to think about at the earliest stages. And when I have my VC hat on, if I'm talking to an early stage founder, if there's a founder that really has a handle on some of these ideas or these metrics, then it really gives me a sense of confidence that they're going to be the right person to build this solution, or for me to invest in, or for me to support further from a Jury standpoint. So the first one, and again, I would say this is in addition to some of what you've heard previously on the call. There's very rarely a right or wrong answer, I would say, but I think you need to think about what mix is right for you as a founder and someone who's actually building a solution. So my first, with that being said, my first metric, I think that you should really try and get a handle on, and do your own external research outside of these guided sessions, is the size of the market that you're actually approaching. So you really want to understand your total addressable market, is the terminology that's used typically in venture, or your TAM. If you're watching videos and content, you might hear people talking about their TAM, and this is ultimately the size of the opportunity that you're addressing. What you're trying to do here is to communicate and help whoever your audience is understand the potential. So you really want to get people excited about the size of the market. You want people to understand that this is a market that can be captured with a new solution or service, and that's ripe for development. So your TAM, or your total addressable market, the size of the opportunity that you're addressing, is definitely a metric that you should be figuring out how you can, first of all, calculate, and then second of all, how you can communicate. That's my first sort of metric that I think really, really matters. Second, in early stage idea development or early stage solution development, I would say is your customer, the metrics around your problem validation. So what is there that validates the demand for your actual solution? So, for example, and how would you collect this kind of information? So being cognizant of the fact and really understanding that you need to talk to potential users a lot before you've built a solution. Never build in isolation. Always go out there and try and talk to people who you think could potentially benefit from the utilization of your service. This is going to give you a better understanding and a validation of the actual problem, the customer problem. And the metric that's wrapped around this is typically derived from survey data, could be interviews or data that you can procure online that shows customer pain points or just general interest in your proposed solution. This is the kind of information and metrics built around problem validation are extremely, extremely important to be communicated at the earliest stages possible. So as an example, it could be your percentage of surveyed customers who've expressed a willingness to pay for your solution. So when you're talking to your customers and you're thinking, you're figuring out what really makes them tick, towards the end of your conversation, if you're saying, look, if there was a solution that helped you overcome this problem, would you actually pay for it? This understanding is definitely something that can be conveyed to a judge or a potential investor, and supporting your general solution. So this is definitely, again, an area of metrics that I would double down on and make sure that you've got a good handle on when you're talking to your jury. Another metric I think is very, very important, and it's very closely tied to the problem validation metric, is traction or early indicators. So you might not have launched your product yet. I think some of the people that I've been mentoring have actually launched products already and have started, to serve clients and customers. But if you have not launched yet, you really want to get an understanding of things that will indicate momentum or interest, even at the earlier stages, at the idea stage. So this could be done via a number of methods, but if you've done things like sent out a survey or built a holding page, and you started to share that with people, the number of signups of people who you've got to potentially be beta testers of your initial solution, or people that have signed up to say that they will pay for the solution, that early indication of traction is extremely important. And this is something, again, you can build in right at the beginning, the earliest stages of idea development. Another thing that could identify or signify traction would be social media engagement. So you could look at partnership interest, people inflow to your website, the amount of followers that you're receiving, organically that are building around your social channels that you might have built for your idea. This is also a very good early indicator that you could talk to a judge about and say, listen, we've got this community of people who are very interested in learning more about what we're building. So it's a very, very clear sign that when we do go to market, there will be good traction that's available and ready to take. These, I think, for me, are three of my top metrics that can showcase a good understanding of your problem and a good understanding of the validation of that problem, that will just build security and comfort, a level of comfort for a jury member, a judge, or an investor to say, yes, we think this is going to be the next superstar application or service that's launched into the market. And that, I think, for me, is just sort of keeping it at a very basic level. I don't want to overcook this too much, and make sure that you guys have got a good understanding of how to effectively communicate is what I would definitely recommend as some metrics that you can measure. I think in terms of a couple of tips for early stage founders, I could probably talk about now. Chris, have I still got a little bit of time?
Yeah, I can give some just top level tips.
A couple of minutes.
Okay, super. So I've had a couple of mentorship sessions, and one of the questions that keeps coming up, I think, outside of what I've been speaking about so far, is team formation. I think building a strong core team around the development of your idea is of paramount importance. I personally believe in the power of three. And if you think about, C-suite type employees, you're gonna have your co-founders who are leading the business, and usually they'll attach titles. I'm not a huge fan of attaching titles, but if I had to categorize what skill sets I think are necessary at the earliest stages in building a strong core team, I would say a 3-person team is fantastic. And if you haven't got team members yet and you're building on your own, it's fine. But it's a lot more favorable, I think, to people who are going to be able to support your idea, like programs, investors, jury members. In the case of this instance, to have that level of confidence. Three core team members who I would probably recommend is a chief executive officer, someone who's a visionary, who can speak about the message, speak about what the overall outcome and idea of achieving and reaching your North Star, as Chris mentioned, would be. Someone who understands numbers, so your kind of CFO type position, someone who can get down in the weeds of numbers and really make sure that they can identify and build the early stages of the processes for a good financial backbone of the company. And the third outlier is you're someone who understands operations. So it could be somebody who has either been part of a startup before, or worked in things like product development and really understands how to operate effectively to build the right kind of processes that build into a sustainable and scalable venture. I think I'll pause there, just in case Chris or Ben wanna jump in, but I think I'm up to time. I can take some quick questions if I can just delay my mentorship session for a moment, but up to you guys. You let me know
I think
what's.
what we'll do, Jeremy, thank you very much. That's super insightful, super informative from someone who's kind of been there and done it. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to carry on, but if anyone has any questions for Jeremy, if people might post some stuff on the chat, if you want to answer them on the chat, and then we might have some time at the end to kind of do some take some of their questions and do Q&A.
Super. Listen, I'll stay in the call and I'll just hop over to my mentorship session. I'll monitor the questions and then I'll jump back in
Great.
to help you with some of those answers.
Thank
If
you very
not,
much, man.
please share my details. You can join me on LinkedIn. My name is as it
Awesome.
appears on the screen now. Please feel free, anyone in the cohort, to reach out anytime. Happy to support. I do this quite often with multiple entrepreneurs across the ecosystem, so happy to continue that.
Brilliant. Very generous offer. Thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. So I think we're going to finish off this session, and we promised you this at the beginning. We're going to talk a little bit about the pitch deck structure. And next week hopefully we'll have some examples of previous pitches that we can show you that give you some inspiration. But what we're just going to do now is we're going to talk through just the kind of structure and just kind of dig into what we mean on each slide. And I don't know if anyone's actually, I'm assuming quite a lot of you have already downloaded the pitch deck guide kind of structure presentation. It's available on the App Olympics platform. And we're just putting it up on the chat there as well. So you've got it there. The submission date, as well as a reminder, is 10th of December for both your App Business Canvas and your pitch video. And the pitch video is going to need to follow along on these slides. Essentially, this is the kind of structure for your video. Okay, I'm not going to go into details on these, just to show you there are, I think it's 12 different slides for your video, including the kind of the thank you slide here. Just before we continue, we're not expecting you to use the same branding or kind of look and feel. This is really up to you about your own brand, how you do this. This branding is the kind of the App Olympics branding. So you can style it however you want, and actually would like you to style it quite polished in a nice way. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to talk through some of these slides in detail, and then we'll give you a couple of exercises to do to start putting down what you're going to put in your pitch deck. So first of all, you need to kind of introduce your app concept. This needs to be really simple and clear. I've been talking to some of you in the mentoring sessions, and sometimes it's taken like, I don't know, 10 minutes to talk through your app proposition, which is great when you've got like a one-on-one and you can talk in detail, but actually for the pitch, you're going to need to really refine that down to like 30 seconds. Just what is the problem you're solving? What is the solution? And do it like you're explaining it to a friend or family. You just make it very simple, very relatable, and don't use too much jargon. The next thing you want to do is to deep dive into the problem a little bit. Again, you'll have about 30 seconds to do this. What is the problem? What problem does your app help to solve? If you've got any supporting evidence, like, oh, we talked to 20 people and like 18 of them said this was a top problem, or if you've done any other desk research, for example, put that in, refer to that, because that's going to be super important for the judges. Don't dive into the features here. This is just problems, and be really specific where you can about the problem. And the next slide you'll be doing is talking about your target market. I know a lot of you have started putting together kind of personas, and you've got your market segmentation. Well, this is your opportunity. You've got 30 seconds here to talk through who are your core audience, what's the potential market size, and you can talk a little bit about the total operating and the kind of the serviceable attainable market. mention like how you're going to like, if you're starting with one particular audience segment, how you're going to grow that over time. And any kind of statistical visuals here is quite beneficial to kind of sell this. Try and avoid things like everyone is our user. That's maybe one day, but for the initial launch, at least you're going to have to be quite targeted in who you're focusing on. And then the next slide in this group is saying how you are unique and how you're going to differentiate from other things on the market. So this is your 30 seconds to be able to really clearly say why you are different, how you're going to improve users' lives that can't be done at the moment, and yeah, so and what are the kind of these kind of real world benefits, and you can maybe show what the kind of the factors are you and differentiate from the current market. Don't go into too much detail about the competitors because you'll have another slide at the end to deal with competitors. So yeah, so those are kind of just going to quickly go back. Those are kind of 4 different things. So intro to the app concept, the problem you're solving, target market and market opportunity, and unique value proposition and differentiation. What I'm going to ask you to do now is you will have a board in your Miro board where it's basically a kind of a skeleton of what your pitch is going to be. And it's quite useful to start thinking about what information you're going to put in on each slide. And we're going to ask you now, just for those first 4, just put in, and we say aim for 1 to 2 sentences per card or 1 to 2 post-its per card. Just think about what you're going to put into each of these sections. Now, some of you might have already started planning your pitch deck. For those of you who haven't, this is a good starting point. Okay, and yeah, so as I said, try and keep it as simple as possible. Just cut to the kind of the core of this. If anyone's got any questions, just post them on the chat. And like I say, in terms of like the styling and so forth, we'll bring some examples to next week to show previous pitches.
Ben, I have a question.
Yes.
So even though the target market globally might be big,
Yeah.
but then the chosen problem statement might be small in maybe UAE and Dubai, because the population of UAE itself is about maybe, I think it's 10 million if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And hence that restricts the problem statement that an entrepreneur has attempted to solve might appear small in that context.
Yep.
So like,
so what is your question? You worried that like obviously your eventual market is going to be quite big, but your initial early adopter market is going to be quite small, or you can, because obviously you can talk about, okay, these are the people we're going to initially go for within the UAE market, and then you can then say, but the wider market is going to be this in, I don't know, 2 years' time. Is that the question you're asking?
Yes, and somehow I like that OpenAI model, right? When they started with a not-for-profit model, and then now they have a not-for-profit aspect of it, and then they have a profit aspect of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be the right hybrid model even for the problem statement that I have chosen to work on. So how does this message go in the pitch deck?
Sorry. So exactly what is the issue you're facing there? You're saying it's.
Yeah, I think I will take it offline. I'll
Okay.
put something
Sorry about that. I'm just like, I guess maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but obviously you want to talk about where you're going to be like in the next year or so, who you're targeting, and you can look at you can look at that market sizing to say this is like kind of the total market of the UAE, and this is like the percentage we're going to be able to focus on, and then you can talk about how you can then hit more diverse markets in future. And then obviously you will be then growing in terms of the revenues and profits.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, there's some. Does anyone know why there's some text that's appeared on? Okay, there we go. I don't know what that was. Okay, so let's go forward again. And so yes, the next set of slides we're going to talk about is who you are. So you're going to be talking about who your founder's story. So again, you've only got like 30 seconds for this. So just bullet points about who you are, what your experience is, why you are the right person to be doing this app, and try and keep it like personal and kind of relatable. And also we want you to talk about who your key team members as well. So this is the team behind this. Try and showcase their experiences and their strengths that align with the app's objectives, and how you've kind of covered all the kind of the key roles you need. And if you don't have those key roles, maybe you could talk about the kinds of people you need to bring in for the next year to be able to support you. Okay, we won't do an exercise on that. I think this is relatively straightforward, and it's going to be kind of quite personal to you guys. What we also want to do is then you're going to have the opportunity to walk through your prototype, your demo, and we recommend you have like, I think, 1 minute to do this. So again, when we talked about this in the prototyping session, you really want to focus in on those key moments in your design to kind of be able to showcase those. And obviously you're going to be talking over the top potentially. So you can talk about the context in which it's going to be used and really use your voice to highlight in on those aspects that you think are most important to describing your prototype. Okay, just got a couple of minutes here. So if you want to put some post-it notes to these sessions, so a little bit about, a couple of post-its about like who you are and why you are the right person. And just to kind of list the key members and like what roles they'll play and why this is important. And then about how the app works. Obviously this is going to be your prototype, but maybe it's a useful point at this point just to put down what are the key things you're going to be highlighting about your prototype. And again, this helps you kind of think, and when you're actually starting to kind of finalize your prototype, maybe you go back to this board and you can say, oh yeah, I want to do this, this, and this. Yeah, other examples of previous video submissions? Yes, coming soon. So it'll be in later this week. Quick question from Rami. Can I change the order of the slides in my pitch? Maybe we'll throw that over to the team, to Carmen.
It's okay, Ben. Yeah, I mean, the idea of the guide is to guide you, that help you, you know, like the order of the slides and the design. That is completely up to you. What is really matters with the guide is that don't forget to include that content. That's why we include like some tips, some things to avoid. But the most important is that you get the content right. Regarding design or order is completely up to you. But we just suggest what we consider that it will be a natural flow as storytelling also. Follow that order, but if you want to change, is also.
Exactly. So you try and keep it logical. Like I wouldn't really make any sense to put the problem statement right at the end, for example, because people wouldn't even know, they wouldn't get the right context. But I think some of these ones, as Carmen was saying, you can kind of maybe switch them around to better fit your flow. Okay, so revenue model, profitability. Again, we mentioned this today. Really want to talk about like what that kind of revenue model is and pricing model is, and maybe you might have multiple models. Probably a lot of you will have multiple models. You don't need to go into a lot of detail on this slide. You don't need to, we're not even suggesting you actually have to have any kind of fixed pricing at this point, but if some of you thought about this and you've got some kind of idea about what it would cost, then put that down. But really, we're really interested in the kind of revenue model that you're suggesting here. And also try and put a little bit about like where you see your main costs, and if you can, then also project the profitability based on that, what we showed you earlier. Quick question, can the app prototype be broken down to milestones? Yes, great, that'd be perfect. Talk a little bit about your go-to-market plan. And we mentioned this like a couple of sessions ago, like what are those kind of channels you're going to use to reach out to your customers? Do you have any ready-made communities that you can already tap into that will accelerate the growth of your app? Any potential partnerships, as we mentioned today, partnerships, collaborations, influencer campaigns, etc. you're going to be using. This is the point at which you put those in. And then maybe just say a quick acquisition plan. You don't have to go into like a lot of detail here, but just what are those kind of key steps to growing the business over the next, let's say 6 to 12 months. You can use a simple timeline or Gantt chart to kind of show that at this point. And allied to that as well is just talk about the customer growth that you expect. So this is like traction and key milestones. So you've talked about what your target market size is going to be. You've talked about what your channel is going to be, your go-to-market. So this is kind of putting those two together and saying, okay, so by the end of the first 3 months, we aim to have approximately X number of customers. At the end of 6 months, this number, at the end of 12 months, this number. You can keep it very high level for this point, but we'd like to see those kind of milestones to show how you're going to grow over the next 12 months. And finally, competitive landscape. Just mention who are the main competitors, what their strengths and weaknesses are in the current market, and how you are going to compete with them, or you're going to exceed them, or perfectly, if there's something that no one else does, so they do something similar, but you've got like a unique offering that you do that no one else does, this is the place to put that in as well. You might want to, talking to the person that was asking about the order, you could move this further in to the presentation to where you do talk about the unique selling points as well. Is there a limit to the number of slides one can have in the pitch deck? My understanding is the limit is the time. I think if you, there we go. We've got the timing there. So we've shown you like 11, 12 slides, and assuming about 30 seconds per slide. Now you obviously can put a few more slides in there. I have seen some slides in the past, not in this competition, where someone's used a single slide for every point they were making, and it does feel a bit crazy after a while. It's like every sentence had a different slide. I wouldn't recommend that, but sometimes you might not be able to get all you want in that 30 seconds within one slide, so you can obviously add 1 or 2 more slides there. Okay. So the final exercise of today, we obviously talked about revenue. We talked about, and in the previous session, we talked about go-to-market plan, and we've talked in the past about competitive landscape. Just add a few post-its to the sections about how you're going to answer these in the pitch, and then we will have a couple of minutes where you can then feed back to the group, and then we'll get on to the final homework and Q&A. So yeah.
Hi, Ben.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good, good. I just want to find out the financial projections. Should they cover just 1 year, which is 12 months, or should they cover a period of 5 years?
I think as a must, you should have at least 1 year.
1 year.
But if you are thinking into, so you need to have enough detail on that 1 year. But if you are thinking into the future, then I don't think it would hurt to have like a 3 year. I wouldn't go much beyond 3 year for this one. I wouldn't start paying like a 10-year plan or something like that, because I think it's just, again, it's probably the wrong point to do that, and it's maybe just a bit too unrealistic at this point to be able to to make projections that far forward.
Okay, so I should submit 12 months. It's okay.
12 months is a minimum, but if you feel you can go a bit beyond that, I don't think it will hurt to put some more. But yeah, I think 12 months is a minimum.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
No worries. And yeah, for the things like competitive landscape, think about who your direct competitors are, but also who your indirect competitors are as well. So there might be businesses not in the same specific sub industry as you guys are, but they fulfill similar things and customers use them to achieve some of the jobs to be done that your app can do as well. So think kind of broadly on that. If there are a lot of kind of direct competitors, obviously those are your priority, but also think about indirect, especially for those ones where you think, I don't really have any competitors. Well, you probably do. It's just not exactly how you're thinking about it. When it comes to your customers, then they may be achieving similar things in a different way. I think with the traction and milestones as well, if you've already gone out and started to get customers or sign people up, this is a great place to put that in as well. I think that's shows great initiative and also really starts to show that your product is going to be successful. So if you've got any existing data for traction, then put that in as well. I think the application demo will be provoked. The application, you mean the prototype? Yes, you can present the prototype as a video, or you could do like a click through while you're on the video. I mean, the whole pitch is going to be on a video, but if you want to do a video within a video, that's fine. It's just obviously you then need to think about the timing, and like you'd need to then kind of somehow synchronize what you're saying in time with the video. Great. Okay. We're getting a bit short on time, but if anyone wants to if anyone wants to share anything with us, maybe if they want to share their board. If not, I know we haven't given you much time to do this. So if anyone has any other questions as well, so we're seeing a few questions coming here. So yes, I will be required to type 10 to 12 slides in a pitch deck all in 4 minutes. Yes. Yes. No, you're not going to be required to do that in that time. So you will have the slides already. You'll have your prototype already, and then you can put that into one of the slides, and you will record it in your own time, but it has to fit within 4 minutes. So how long you take to put this together is up to you, but the final output needs to be 4 minutes. Cool.
Just one thing to add there. Even though it's a very short time frame, it's very good to structure your thinking around each slide to condense it to the most important information. Right? Yes. It's very easy to put a lot on a slide, let's say about the problem, but can you say what the problem is in 1 or 2 sentences and make it impactful? So once you look at it like that, each slide should not, when speaking over, should not take longer than, let's say, 30 seconds. It should be clear and straight to the point.
Exactly, and you should be speaking to someone who doesn't have that technical knowledge that you have. So think about like a friend or a family member you're explaining it to. Just to mention, we've already talked about some of these before, but things like Loom to do your video recording is great. I think you can even record on using Zoom, so you can record it using Zoom. Sorry, and then there are a bunch of other things. Canva's quite good, and I think you can record on Canva. Yeah, just some example, and this is some other stuff here as well that we put in there. Like, so there's an elevator pitch generator, which is quite useful just to kind of help you condense down. Maybe you could also use ChatGPT or another, so Claude, Gemini, etc., Copilot. They're very good to, if you've got if you start recording your pitch and then asking them how you could condense it down. There's a lot of great kind of free resource out there to help you condense your report. And also, obviously, just try it with other people. Ideally not team members, because they already know your product, but people who haven't been involved with your product. Okay, great. So we are going to come to the end here. So in terms of the learning, you need to pick a business or revenue model carefully, ensuring it aligns with your customer needs and business goals. Ensure a clear overview of revenue, market size, and your runway to ensure sustainable growth. So you need to be keeping these things in mind at all times, especially revenue and runway. Keep your pitch deck clear and concise, showing only the high value, impactful elements. And then moving forward, when you start launching your app, and even before, you're going to be constantly tracking metrics like acquisition costs, lifetime value. These are going to be things that are going to be the lifeblood of your app and the success of your app. So your homework is to finish your app business model canvas, focusing in probably a bit more on revenue and operations. And then also want you to write your pitch deck outline and start populating it with actual content. And as we said, there were going to be examples that are going to be put on the platform, on the website in the next couple of days to kind of inspire you. We can also with this deck we're putting out now, we'll also have some examples from things like Airbnb that you can also see. And we could maybe put out some resources of other pitch decks. So obviously, when you're pitching to investors, it might be slightly different content, but there could be a lot to be learned from like the style and also some of the content on investor pitch decks that could be useful. Okay, so finally, have we got any more questions based on this, or maybe even some kind of more general questions you need to ask? I see that Chris answered a question about IP concept.
Sheldon was asking about if there's any advice about getting IP or trademarks registered for their concept here in the UAE. There's a lot of companies that specialize in that can help speed up the process for you. You could contact them and get some insight into what's the typical steps that are required to take and how much does it typically cost. But yeah, I'd recommend going on Google, finding some companies that way, and then picking one.
But just to underline to everyone else, this is not mandatory for the App Olympics, and we expect a lot of you won't be registering IP and trademark at this point. But obviously, it's useful to know for future.
Also, Ben, if you allow me to add on what Chris said, it's like if you go into the mentor circle, we have the mentors filtered by expertise. So what I suggest is that you filter by legal. So maybe you also can get a subject matter expert that can point you on the right direction.
Perfect. A quick point from Rami. Is the pitch deck for investors different from the competition deck? I would say there's a lot of similarities. So talking through your problem solution, talking about how your unique selling point, talking about your competitors, talking about route to market size, traction. One of the big differences is with the investor deck, you're going to be asking for a sum of money. So you need to you need to be saying what you're asking for and how you're going to be and what it's going to be used for. B, you're also got to give an indication of how much you're valuing your company, obviously to determine what share they're going to get for. You don't actually, maybe you don't have to have that, but you need to have that in mind. The other thing is you need to be showing like some kind of, maybe you need to be focusing a bit more in like your profitability and what this return on investment is going to be. So if they give you money, like how are they going to make that money back? But by and large, there's going to be a lot of similarities in how you present it really simply and concisely, and really talk about what the problems to be solved, how you're solving it, how you're different. How much FaceTime? So in terms of FaceTime, you can, I think it's always great if you're using something like Loom, and I think some of these other products allow you to have your face in the thing as you go. I think it's great if you can do it all the way through. Maybe, I mean, it's not to say if you only pop up sometimes, that's fine. I think we would advise people to have your face in it if you can. It really brings it to life. It kind of brings that kind of personal touch to it as well, and a little bit more engagement for the competition judges.
Ben, I also can add to that, to the FaceTime, that yes, it's required to show your face in the video, as both semifinals and finals will be held in person. Semifinals will be in a hybrid, but finals for sure will be in person. So this ensures the consistency and confirms that the individual who is presenting the project in the initial stage is the same one that is will be presenting on later stage. So just also for those that are a little bit concerned with showing the face, is that for everybody knows that we will not be sharing the video with anyone outside of the competition and will be not publishing in any channel. So only the Apolympics committee, Apolympics team, and the jury member will see your videos.
Yeah.
If that clarifies a little bit.
So just a quick question: don't we get it? We show our faces by using the Zoom platform. I think the Zoom platform. I think there's an ability just to record yourself presenting, I believe. So that's how you could use the Zoom platform. Or, as I said, Loom is quite good as well for that. And I think there's a free version of that that you can use. It might have a little bit of branding in it, but we need to double check that. I think, actually, Carmen, with the Loom platform, if you go the free version, it has like a little bit of Loom branding in it. Is that going to be a problem, or do they need to really find something that doesn't have that?
No, at all. No, at all.
Cool.
No problem. If there is a little bit of a watermark of Loom, it's completely fine.
Cool.
That is not what we are looking for or taking into consideration. So no problem.
Just to Rami's point, I don't think I can answer who's going to be the jury members, but in terms of is being in a team or having a co-founder increase the chance of winning the competition? My understanding is no, people should have the same amount of winning, like same chances if you're an individual or in a team. Obviously, it can be helpful for people to have a team, but it's not mandatory to do it, and it won't affect your chances. Cool.
Yeah, you are correct. Exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
Exactly that. So with all I'm looking at the time. So I already wrote that a few times on the chat that tomorrow we will have our Q&A session from 12 to 1. So I encourage that everyone join the session, so you will have more chance to ask your question regarding the competition. So, and also Ben will join us. So if you have another technical question, Ben also can support us on that. And don't forget to register for next week workshop that is about pitch. So I think that also is one of the key workshops where we will go through all the logistics and technicalities and practice. So I encourage everyone to join these 2 sessions that are upcoming.
Great.
That's it. So, thank you very much, Ben. Thank you all for joining us today. As I said, I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow during our Q&A. So if you want to say something else, Ben, to wrap up.
I think no. Thank you very much for everyone that's got involved on the chat. Yeah, it's been a good session. So thank you, and speak tomorrow, hopefully.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Until next time, happy learning.